Hashem's Vasai Tiftach Lefi Agital Sacha. We're now in the 22nd Perek of Yehoshua. In this Perek, Yehoshua calls Reuven, Gad, and half a shepherd of Manasseh. Remember, they have now spent 14 years outside of their family. And a few things. The first is that just picture if they left a 10-year-old, then they're coming home to a 24-year-old. If they left a 24-year-old, now they're coming home to much older. It's a huge amount of developmental growth that they missed out on. But they did it willingly and lovingly. And they did what they said they promised to do. But now, Yehoshua is telling them, it's time. I want to give you accolade and praise, and you gave me such nachas. Atem shamartim es kol asher tzivah etzchem. Everything that you said that you were told to do, you did. From Moshe, v'tishmeu b'koli, and you also listened to me. L'chol asher tzivisi etzchem. You not only made historical promises, but in the present, you really did a great job. Lo azavtem es achicham ze yamim rabim. You never left your brothers. Ad hayom hazeh, until now. Ushamartim es mishmeres mitzvahs Hashem Elokeichem. You really, truly have done everything faithfully. And so, but it's now time. Penu ulechu lachem lo aleichem. It's time to go home. Al eretz achuzaschem, where you were assigned. Now remember, Reuven and Gad, they wanted to be on the other side of the Yarden. But Manasseh didn't. Manasseh was there because Manasseh was so special about the love of Eretz Yisrael. That Shevet really showed. They were the Gullus Jew. They showed how they could handle being in Gullus, but how they yearned to be in Eretz Yisrael. And now, what did they have to do? They have to go back onto the other side of the Yarden. Now, what's also interesting, the Gemara talks about that while they were away for the last 14 years, they weren't able to do puruvu, they weren't able to procreate. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a special miracle. And the people from Reuven, Gad, and half of Manasseh, no one died. So for 14 years, not one person in those Shvatim died. They didn't die in battle, they didn't die outside of battle, they stayed alive because Hashem said, you can't do puruvu. The least I could do is make sure that your numbers don't dwindle, that they don't go down. And so Hashem has been watching over Reuven and Gad, right? And it's an amazing feat, right? And that's how we know Yechi Reuven al Yimotz, right? We in the brachos of the Shvatim, long live Reuven, and Gad Yigud Yigadenu, that he was going to be under very difficult, dangerous experiences, and he was still going to be okay. But now, they have to leave. Rak sham'u ma'od lasos es mitzvah. Just remember, be very careful in how you do mitzvahs. And the Torah that Moshe gave, Alecha b'chol drachav, to walk in the ways of Hashem, Lishmar mitzvosav, to listen to the mitzvahs, Uladav kabo, and to cling to it. Ulavdo b'chol levavchem, v'chol nafshechem. So he's really giving them a pep talk. What do you mean? Just listen to the mitzvahs. Okay, what's the difference? You have to be a Jew on one side of the Yarden. Did they have a doubt that they had to be a Jew on this side of the Yarden? But from here we learn something very, very sad. We learn that the mitzvahs, how we keep mitzvahs in Galus, on the other side of the Yarden, is not the same as in Eretz Yisrael. He has to give them a pep talk because life is going to be different. And the lalecha b'chol drachav, to walk in the ways of Hashem, there are 8 times that the Torah talks about walking in the ways of Hashem. Either it's in the midos, mahu racham afataracham, just like Hashem is compassionate, you be compassionate. But also that there are certain mitzvos that Hashem showed to really care about the other person, acts of kindness. Bikar cholim, visiting the sick. Levias hamis, burying the dead. clothing the naked, visiting the mourners. Those things highlight what we know to be true, which is that Hashem is so compassionate and so kind, and we have to walk in his ways to take care of those who could use the extra being taken care of. Vayivarchem Yehoshua, and so he blesses them. Vayishlachem melchu alehem, and they go back to their homes. And it is very hard. It is especially hard for the people of Manasseh, because they did not do it willingly, and they had to leave. Now, when he sends them out, don't worry. They're going to reap the benefits. All the spoils that they won, they're also going to get. Of course they're going to get too. Of course they're going to get. Now, on their way out, Vayashvu v'yalchu b'nei Reuven, Gad, and Chatzi Shem Menashe, me'ez b'nei Yisrael, Mishilo. They go to Shiloh. What are they doing in Shiloh? But we all have that feeling, that last feeling that we get when we want to leave, when we have to leave Eretz Yisrael, when we have to leave Israel. Let me just go one more time to the Kotel. Let me just go one more time. I think I could squish it in on my way. Maybe the taxi could drop me off just so I could go to the Kotel that last time. Because our neshamas, they just yearns just to be in the most kedusha-filled place. And that's exactly what's happening here. They go back to Shiloh. That's their makom of real kedusha. And it's very, very hard. And so what do? They built a mizbeach. They built this huge gadol mar'eh, huge base mizbeach. Now, what were they trying to do? They're trying to hold on to the memory. They're trying to give in such a good way. They want to recognize, Hashem, we love you. We're giving as much as we can to you. And we want to build something in recognition of the amazing nisim and all of what we've experienced. But what happens? And here's the next life lesson. Vayishma'u b'nei Israel, the b'nei Israel hear, not vayiru, they didn't see, but vayishma'u, and they hear. And they gather, kol adas b'nei Israel Shiloh, and they're going to have a war with these Shvatim, because they interpret what the Shvatim did as being horrible. Oh my goodness, you build a bama? You're building a mizbeach? Are you nuts? How could you do this? And so they completely misunderstood what the intentions were of these Shvatim. Now what's interesting is if you really just logically think about it, if they wanted to build a bama, which was their own personal mizbeach, they would have built a small little guy, because it just, okay, so you bring animals on a small little guy. They built this huge edifice. Of course they weren't going to do it for the wrong reasons. And they had just come from Shiloh. The first thing that you do when you leave the kosel is not start sinning and eating not kosher. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But that oftentimes is exactly how we interpret what other people do. And it's not like l'dan l'kavskos. We don't judge them favorably. And so what happens is there's almost a civil war. And so what happens is the Bnei Israel, they send out Pinchas. Now, what do we know about Pinchas? So Pinchas, he is a He is a Kanai. He killed Zimri and Cusby. Remember, he's from Shevet, Levi. So it's always L'Shem Shamayim. And he's also a Kohen. But why exactly is he a Kohen? He shouldn't be a Kohen because he comes from the descendants of Aaron, but he was already born by the time Aaron became the Kohen Gadol. So it's not like, it doesn't actually lend itself to Pinchas being a Kohen. But from his actions, he becomes the Kohen. And so 10 of the Shiftei Ka, of the different families, of the different Shvatim, and they come, and he speaks to them, and remember, he's a broker of peace. And they say, what is going on here? Ma ha'ma'al hazeh asher ma'altem. How could you do this? Are you kidding? You're trying to get us you're rebelling against Hashem by building yourselves a bama? a mizbeach to Hashem, terrible. Isn't it? It's just like the sin of Peor with Baal Peor. How could you do this? Where we've Asher Lota Haranu Mimeno Ad Hayom Hazeh, we're still bouncing back from that avodah zarah. So why in the world would you do this? Now, what happened to Baal Peor? What happens? What are they really trying to say? Why are you taking religion into your own hands? We don't believe in that. That's not who we are. You can't do that. We believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the 613, and those are the mitzvahs that we're there to follow. This is not good. And the whole idea of the Baal Peor, this disgusting avodah zarah practice, was that they would urinate on their avodah zarah to say, I can do whatever I want. And that's exactly what the Jews are telling these shvatim. Are you kidding me? You can't. You can't just do whatever you want. Serving avodah zarah, the whole idea of Baal Peor is connected to in sequence in the Torah to Baal Tosef. You can't do more than the 613 mitzvos allow you to. You need to follow and walk in the ways of Hashem as Hashem delineates. And so what are you doing? It's the same thing where, with Achan, again, we learned our lesson. We don't do that. This is not what we're going to do. Achan, similar kind of thing. He took from the spoils. He wasn't allowed. You don't do that. Now, Reuven, Gad, and half of Shevet of Menashe, they said, what are you talking about? Of course we would never do that. We would never be rebellious. We just spent the last 14 years of our lives dedicated to you and to Hashem. How could you say this? That's not cool. Of course we didn't do that. Of course we didn't build a mizbeach to turn away from Hashem. We did it just because we wanted to highlight Hashem. You did amazing. Thank you so much. So, and we were hoping that would trickle down. Lemor machar yamu b'nechem, so that it would trickle ulevanenu. Malachem laHashem Elokei Yisrael. This was a testament forever that we would be able to pass down for generations. This is not negative. We only did in the positive. Why are you judging us so negatively? And that's all. We just wanted a witness. We wanted something else that would allow us to hold on to where we have here in Eretz Yisrael and exactly what we've done. And so it was not at all, never, ever to be against Hashem. And upon working that out, Pinchas was able to then, Vayishma Pinchas HaKohen, then he really truly became the Kohen. He's the broker of Shalom. And he explains it to them, and he speaks to them, Vayitav Beinehem, and they approve. And they understand exactly what's happened. They understand that it was just a misunderstanding. And Pinchas ben Elazar HaKohen, now that we know that everything is good, and that, we're proud of you, Pinchas, and you helped out in this situation, and that's it. All the Jews are pleased. They don't go to war. Look how easily just see things for exactly what it is. And it generally is not as bad as we have in our imagination. And Baruch Hashem, there wasn't a civil war. But look how close we got to having one. And during what? During time of peace. Everything's good. The people have all done exactly what they're supposed to. And so it's very important to recognize how tenuous peace really is. How in 2 seconds you can judge somebody negatively and literally lead to a massive amount of civil war. And so what we really have here is a very important lesson. The important lesson, first of all, not Vayishma, do not go and listen, but see with your own eyes. Don't make that judgment. Try to see things in a positive way first before going off to a civil war. And if there is ever the possibility to work it out b'shalom, that is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants more than anything. When he says, V'halachta b'drachav, walk in the ways of Hashem, He's not just saying, oh yeah, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. What he's saying is walk in the ways of Hashem. Put yourself in other people's positions. Try very hard to judge things favorably. Try to walk in the way of how you would want Hashem to watch and react to you. And Baruch Hashem, there was no civil war. As easily as the problems went up, the problems went down and extinguished. And so they do leave under good circumstances with their ego intact and all the shvatim intact, and the appreciation that we have for all of the fighters, all of the people who are moser nefesh for the sake of the team. They really took a hit, maybe not thank God they didn't take the amount of people remain the same, but they took 14 years of their lives to give to Klal Yisrael. And for that, we have to show our gratitude, and we have to appreciate that these are the fighters, these are the ones, the chalutzim, these are the ones that really are very, very special, self-sacrificing, very special people that helped to build up Eretz Yisrael and Klal Yisrael.